Welcome back to CBSE Class 11 Computer Science Python course. This is Vishesh Dwivedi and today we are going to cover the second part of Class 11 NCERT Chapter 5 where I am going to talk about variables and data types in Python. If you haven't watched part 1 of this course, I would recommend you to pause this video and watch part 1 of this course where I have covered basic Python commands and have guided people as to how they can get started with Python programming language. With this, let's start the video. Everything is an object within Python. There is an interesting concept within Python in which every data is an object of a class. There exist classes for variables and data types in Python, and every time we create a variable, we actually create an object of that class. This is the reason why data or values can be assigned as variable or can be passed within a function. Also, Python stores an ID for each object it creates which corresponds to its stored position within the computer memory. Since we know that variables are stored in memory as long as program executes, like I discussed in my first video, in order to access this value, we can use the ID function and pass the object as its parameter. For example, here I have created a variable by the name var1 and assigned it the value 20. Now if I use the id function with var1 as its argument, I get the variable's id as the value. If I create another variable, let's say var2, and give it the value 30 minus 10, which is 20, and then try to find its id using the id function, I get the same value as var1 because number 20 is saved in the same place within computer's memory by Python. And whenever my variable has a value of 20, the variable will simply fetch its value from the same place within computer memory, thus giving it the same ID. You should try and experiment the ID function with different variables to see how it works. Now we come to our next major topic, data types. Every value within Python like number 2 or 12.354, alphabet M or string Python belongs to a certain data type. Data types help Python interpreter understand what type of value a certain data is and what and how the interpreter should understand and process it. Just like you all learned about numbers, decimals and alphabets in your junior classes, Python has also been taught these things in the form of data types. Here is an image displaying all the data types within Python. Don't worry, we will discuss all of these in this video. First, we have number. Number data type is divided into three: integer, float and complex numbers. Integer numbers are basically all integers, which means all positive and negative numbers along with 0 fall into this category. But beware, as decimal numbers are not part of integers. Some examples of integers are 12, minus 10, 10,000, etc. The name of the class depicting integer in Python is int. There is another data type within integer called Boolean. It has only two possible values, true and false. Make sure you type true and false with T and F capital when writing your code in Python. True represents 1, not empty and not null values, while false represents 0, empty and null values. Now let's talk about float. Decimals have another category in Python called float. All real numbers that contain a dot or decimal in their value are float numbers. Some examples of floats are 12.2, minus 11.435, 1000.234, 0.0, etc. The name of the class depicting float in Python is float. As complex as it may seem, Python can even process complex numbers. All non-real numbers, basically the ones that contain iota in them, fall under the category of complex numbers within Python. Example, 3 plus 2j, minus 2j, minus 2 minus 4j, etc. The name of the class depicting complex numbers in Python is complex. let me give you a quick demo for numbers. One more thing to tell you before I start this demo, you can use the type function just like you used the id function to find the data type of a variable or value. As you can see, I've created a variable num1 and assigned it the value of 10. Now if I check its data type using the type function, I get class int, which indicates the variable is of int class, or in other words, the value within variable is an integer. We can also set num2 with value like -10 and still its data type will be integer. Now let's change the value of num1 to 2.5. Now if I check its type, we get class float as the value within the variable is floating point or decimal. Similarly, if we change num2 to -2.5 and check its data type, we again get float. Now let's change num1 to 3 plus 2j and again check its data type. I hope some of you may have guessed it. Now its data type will be complex as the j in the value means iota, making it a complex number. Remember, if you use any other letter in place of j, it will not be treated as complex number. So you see, the name of the variable is not deciding the data type, it is the value within the variable that decides the data type. I hope that cleared your concepts. In case of any doubt, you can contact me by writing your doubt in the comment section below. Now that we are clear with numbers, let's talk about sequences. A sequence can be understood as any data type within Python that is an ordered collection of items where each item within it is indexed by an integer. Let's directly jump into types within sequence to get a clearer view. Number 1. String. String in Python is nothing but a list of characters in a specific order. The characters could be alphabets, numbers, special characters or white spaces. Quotes, either single or double, are used to mark the beginning and end of the string. Note that these quotes are not part of the string. The class name for string in Python is str. Some example of strings are subscribe, do, all about Python. Which reminds me, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to get more such interesting videos related to Python. At number 2 we have list. A list in Python is nothing but a sequence of items separated by commas and enclosed by square brackets. You can understand a list in Python to be like a grocery list. There are various items written in it and they are present in a specific order. The class name for list in Python is list. Here's how you can make a list. As you can see here, I have created a list by the name list1 and I've stored 4 values within the list, namely string subscribe, string 2, string all about Python and number 1. If I use the print statement and pass the list in it, the list is displayed on the screen. Values within list can be accessed and changed within Python program. The way to do it will be covered in future chapters. At number 3 we have tuples. Tuples are similar to list with the exception that the values within them can be accessed but not changed. They are basically lists whose values cannot be changed. It's like grocery list but written with a permanent pen. Tuples also separate data using commas, but unlike list, tuples are enclosed with round brackets. The class name for tuple in Python is tuple. Here is an example of how you can make a tuple. I've created a tuple here by the name tuple1 and I've stored 3 values in it. Subscribe, 2, all about Python. And when I use the print statement with the tuple as parameter, it simply prints the tuple as it is on the screen. Tuple1 equals to subscribe to all about Python, print tuple1. Those were all the sequences. Now let's talk about sets. Sets in Python are the unordered form of lists which cannot have duplicate values. In case if you create a set with duplicates, it will simply remove the duplicate value from the set. Sets also separate data with commas, but they are enclosed with curly brackets. Here is an example of set. I have created a set by the name set1 and I have given it values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and all about Python. And just like the above examples, if I use the print statement, all the contents of the set will be printed. Now let's talk about none type. None type is basically a data type to depict emptiness in Python. It's like number 0 in numbers. No form of operation can be performed on none type. To use this data type, all you need is to type none with N capital, just like that. Now let's talk about our last data type, dictionary. Dictionary is an unordered mapping data type present in Python. Mapping here means that the data within it exists in the form of key-value pair. Just like when you create an account on a site, your data is stored as username and password. Data within Python is always stored with two values. Key, which tells you what the data is, and value, which stores the actual value. For those of you who know JSON, dictionary is very much like JSON. Dictionary is enclosed within curly brackets and key values pairs are separated by commas. However, key and value are separated by colon. Here is an example of dictionary. Here I have created a dictionary by the name dict1 and I have stored within it name as all about Python and task as subscribe. Now that we know about data types, let's talk about another classification of data types, mutable and immutable data types. Python allows some data types with the ability to change its value after already being assigned some values. However, some data types are not allowed to do so. So instead of changing values, Python simply destroys the older variable and creates a new variable in place of the older one with the same name but the new updated value. Those data types who can change their values are called mutable and those who cannot are called immutable data types. List, sets and dictionary are examples of mutable data types, while the common ones like character, int, float and tuple are examples of immutable data types. Now let's talk about when to use which data type. Since lists, tuples, sets and dictionary seems quite similar, beginners can get confused as to which one should be used under which condition. So let me give you some real-life examples for each data type. Example 1. Let us suppose you need a data type to store information of students in a school. You would often need to store information about the new students who will come every year. In such a situation, you can use list as it will make updates and process a lot easier. Example 2. Now let's say that you need to store the months of a year. You have to ensure that its data cannot be changed by anyone accidentally or intentionally. So you can use tuple as data within them cannot be changed during the process of execution. Example 3. Now let's say that you need to store the names of all the artifacts within a museum. You know that all of them are named unique and you have to ensure no duplicacy happens within the data. So you can use sets as they do not support duplicate items within them. And finally, example 4. If you want to store big list of mobile phone numbers along with their user addresses such that the data retrieval process is fast and efficient, you can use dictionaries to perform the task where key can be addresses and value can be numbers or vice versa. That's all there is in this video. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share this video to all your friends and subscribe to the channel as I'm going to be uploading the next part of this series very soon. Also, I've decided that I will also cover all the NCERT questions and give you their answers while explaining how the answers were derived. Time for me to go. This is Visesh Dwivedi signing off.